Hello, this is Cindy of Studio Kitsch Design. In this tutorial, we're going to create a fun snow globe. I'm in Procreate and I've already created a 12 by 12 inch document at 300 pixels per inch. And I've also imported the free snow globe color palette that you'll find linked in the description, along with the brushes I've used in this video. So let's get started by picking the light blue from the color palette, and then choose a monoline style brush. And now let's go ahead and draw a circle. Hold it down to trigger the quick shape, then tap on edit shape, and then tap on circle, and then we can go ahead and drag the color to fill in our shape. And it's a little bit big, so I'm going to get the move tool and resize it a bit. There we go. And we need to create a new layer. And in the color palette this time, choose the light cranberry. Now this time let's draw a sideways oval, hold it down so that we get our quick shape, then tap edit shape, ellipse, and then just try to make it as straight as you can. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then let's go ahead and grab our color and fill it in. Now in the layers panel, swipe left on the oval shape and select duplicate. Then select the oval shape on the bottom, get the move tool and move that shape down underneath the top oval shape. And you can use the snapping tools, the snapping and magnetic tools, to try to get those centered as much as possible. And now let's go ahead and select the top oval shape in our layers panel, get the move tool, and we want to just reduce the size of that top oval shape. Next, let's choose warp and move the top middle down a bit towards the bottom of the oval, and then move the bottom up towards the top just a tiny bit. Now in the layers panel, swipe right on both the oval layers and get the move tool, and then choose uniform and move those two shapes so they're roughly centered below the circle shape. Then move the ovals down below the circle shape in the layers panel. And in the layers panel, choose the circle shape, then get the move tool and choose warp, and then move the bottom of the circle shape up just a tad bit so that the circle isn't really a perfect circle anymore. Now in the layers panel, let's choose the bottom oval shape, and I'm going to make it just a bit bigger. I want to make sure that it's bigger than the top oval shape. And next I'll choose the warp tool and move the bottom edge up just a bit. Now in the layers panel, swipe right on both the oval layers, get the move tool, choose uniform, and then reduce the size a bit. Now in the layers panel, tap on the top oval shape and choose merge down. Next, in the layers panel, create a new layer right above the base layer and choose the dark cranberry from the color palette. And this time I'm going to use a brush from my Snow Dust brush set, Snow Dust brush 8. And then in the layers panel, choose clipping mask. And now I'm just going to add some shading to the base of the snow globe. And once you're happy with your shading, you can go into the layers panel, tap on the shading layer and choose merge down. Next, let's create a layer right above the circle shape and choose clipping mask. Let's choose white from the color palette, and I'll use the same brush that I used to create the shading, only I'll make it a little bit bigger, to add some dense snow to the bottom of the snow globe and kind of up the sides a bit too. Let's go ahead and create a new layer, and then grab the darker green from the color palette. And this time I'm going to use a brush from my snow globe set. I'll be using the Tree 3 Top brush. And I'll go ahead and stamp that right on top of my snow globe. And I'll use the move tool to move it into position. Next, in the layers panel, let's create a new layer right below our tree layer and choose the brown from the color palette. Next, let's grab the tree stem brush from the snow globe brush set, and let's go ahead and stamp that right below our tree and get the move tool and center it as best we can. Now in the layers panel, tap on the tree layer and choose merge down. Next, let's create a new layer and then choose the lighter green from our color palette and then the tree to solid from the snow globe brush set. And then let's go ahead and stamp that next to our other tree and then get the move tool and move it into position. And I'll move the other tree a little bit too. And let's create a new layer right above our new tree and then tap clipping mask and then grab white from the color palette and let's choose the lights brush from the snow globe set, and then I'm just going to do kind of a zigzag pattern down the tree so it looks like lights. And then I'll merge those layers together, create a new layer. Now I'm going to grab the yellow from the color palette, and then from the snow globe set I'm going to choose the solid star shape, or you could draw one. Stamp that right at the top of your tree, then get the move tool and move it into position if needed, and then merge those two layers together. Let's go ahead and choose our second tree in the layers panel, tap and choose alpha lock, choose brown from the color palette, and then choose the mono brush and go ahead and color in the stem. Turn off alpha lock on your tree layer, then create a new layer and choose clipping mask. Grab the dark green from the color palette, and I'll use the squiggle brush from the snow globe brushes and go ahead and just stamp that right on top of the tree. Then go ahead and swipe left and choose duplicate to make a copy. Then get the move tool and move that down, and I also like to flip it horizontal. Go ahead and make another copy and get the move tool and move that down. Next, create a new layer and then grab white from the color palette, and I'm going to use the tree to snow brush. Stamp that right on top of my tree, and I'll use the move tool to move that into position, and I'm going to drag that right above my tree layer so it clips it to my tree, and then I'm going to merge those layers together. And I'm going to move that squiggle line that's at the top of the tree down so that it's not over the snow. And then I'll pinch and merge the tree and squiggle lines together. Now create a new layer between the two tree layers. And then choose a green that's a bit darker than our darkest green. And using a mono brush, draw a shadow on the right side of the tree. Now in the layers panel, choose clipping mask. Now tap on the adjustments icon and choose Gaussian blur layer, and then slide your pencil to the right to soften the shadow. Next, let's create a new layer at the top of our layers panel and choose white again from our color palette. And this time I'll use Snow Dust Brush 1 to add snowflakes in front of my trees. And then I'm just going to layer several different brushes on the top to fill it in. I want it to look like snow is falling both in front and behind my trees. Okay, a great way to make sure to just add snow inside your globe shape is to choose the globe shape or the circle in your layers panel and then tap and choose select, and that's going to just make a selection of that circle shape. Then you can go back and choose the snow layer in your layers panel and continue adding snowflakes until you're happy with it. And if you have any stray snow that's gone outside of your globe shape, you can go ahead and choose your globe layer and then choose select, invert, then go up to your snow layer and swipe 3 fingers down and choose cut, and that'll get rid of anything that's going outside of your globe shape. Okay, I'm just going to add some more snow to the bottom snow layer just to fill it in a bit more. It's all just a personal preference. I'm going to alternate between some of the snow globe and the snow dust brushes to fill that in. Okay, I'm going to create a new layer at the top of my layers panel, and I'm going to use the highlight 2 brush from my snow globe brushes. to add a highlight right on top of my snow globe. And I'll use the Move tool to reposition and resize that. And then I'll lower the opacity to about 62%. Okay, I'll create a new layer at the top of my Layers panel, and then I'll swipe right on all but the blank layer and group those together. And now I'll use a script style brush to add highlights to the base of the snow globe. Okay, and in the Layers panel, I'm just going to drag that highlight layer down into the group and create a new layer. And now let's grab the light green from the color palette and then choose the solid holly leaves from the snow globe set and go ahead and stamp those and use the Move tool to rotate and position those. And then in the Layers panel, tap and choose Alpha Lock. And then I'm going to grab the darker green and then use a mono style brush to draw on shadows to the bottom half of the leaves. And in the Layers panel, turn off Alpha Lock and then create a new layer and then choose Clipping Mask, then grab white, and I'm going to use the dot pattern from the snow globe set and just paint on some dots on top of those leaves. And in the Layers panel, let's change the blend mode to soft light and lower the opacity to about 57%. Okay, let's create a new layer and then grab the darker cranberry color from the color palette. And then let's choose the berry brush and go ahead and stamp that on top of our leaves. Get the Move tool and move into position. And then go ahead and select those layers in the Layers panel and group them together. Okay, next let's swipe left and choose Duplicate. Then choose the bottom berries, tap on the adjustments icon, choose Gaussian Blur and Layer, and then slide your pencil to the right to feather and blur the berries to create a shadow. In the Layers panel, tap on the berries, choose Alpha Lock, then choose black from the color palette, then choose Fill Layer and turn off Alpha Lock, and then lower the opacity to about 41%. And then you can get the Move tool and move the shadow down to your right a bit. And we can follow the same steps to create a shadow for the holly leaves by duplicating the leaves, choosing Alpha Lock, Fill Layer, turn off Alpha Lock, move the shadow layer down using the Move tool, applying a Gaussian blur, and lowering the opacity. Okay, let's go ahead and create another new layer. Choose white from the color palette, and then I'm going to use the Label 2 Solid from the snow globe brushes, and then I'll create another new layer and use a mono style brush, and I'll write the number 20, then I'll duplicate that layer, then I'll group, move, and resize those two layers, and then merge them together. And then I'll add an accent to the right side, and then I'll use the Move tool to move it into a better position. Then I'll duplicate that layer and then get the Move tool and flip horizontal and move it over to the left side. And you can continue to refine the position with the Move tool. And in the Layers panel, merge the two accent layers together. And then I grouped the date, accent, and label together. Now create a new layer below the highlight layer in the Layers panel. And I'm going to choose my Happy Holidays brush from my snow globe brushes. And I'll stamp that on my snow globe and use the Move tool to position it in the middle. Okay, and the next thing I'm going to do is choose the background layer in the Layers panel and choose the pink from the color palette. And then I'll create a new layer. And then I'm going to grab white, and then I'm going to use the paper texture from my watercolor Christmas brush set. And then I'm just brushing to fill in the entire layer. And this will add a nice texture to the whole document since it's on the top layer. And you can play with the blend modes of that layer. The only one that really does anything since it's white is Add. It kind of just intensifies the look and kind of brightens it up a bit. So I think that looks pretty good. You can also lower the opacity a bit if you want. Now the fun thing about this project is that you can create different looks. For example, in this version, I used my watercolor Christmas brushes, and this gives it more of a maybe classic or traditional look as opposed to a whimsical look. And to create the trees, I used the inker brush from my Messy Ink brush set. And basically, I just scribbled trees with the brush, and I really like how they turned out. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I can't wait to see what you come up with. Please tag Studio Kitsch Design on Instagram.